appears on this session is how we are aiming and have been able to build cooperative relationships with other development partners, working closely with institutions such as African Development Bank and EIB. We are a dedicated member of Team Europe. And for example, over the past year alone, the EBRD has invested 1.3 billion euros in renewable in North Africa, of which 700 million with EU support, and therefore, as a key delivery for Team Europe. These investments are creating close to 3 gigawatts of renewable generation capacity, supporting jobs and increasing access to affordable electricity. To achieve these ambitions, we offer a broad suite of instruments: debt, equity and guarantee, tailored to diverse project needs. We deploy innovative risk mitigation tools such as our Green Economy Financing Facility. There, for example, we help local banks finance green technologies through an unfunded risk participation coupled with technical assistance. Our capacity is further enhanced by donor funding and EU guarantees, which de-risk investments and mobilize private capital. We also provide local currency financing and work to strengthen capital markets. For example, in Morocco, a few years ago, we supported the city of Agadir's local currency bond issuance, providing resources for green and inclusive urban development. Financing is essential, but it's not alone. It's not enough. It must be paired with policy reform and an enabling environment. And the EBRD combines investment with policy dialogue and technical support to reinforce our impact by creating an enabling environment for sustainable private sector development. Let me take the example of Egypt's renewable sector. We've been supporting the Egyptian government in meeting their renewable energy targets through policy dialogue, technical advice and investment through a country-led platform, the NWEFE program. And today, Egypt is retiring 5 gigawatts of inefficient power and adding 10 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity by 2028. Another example, extremely important, is support for human capital. Through our private sector inclusion model, we integrate pathways for young people and women entrepreneurs and skill developments into our investments, because growth must be inclusive. With our distinctive shareholding structure, so an EU-held majority combined with membership from its countries of operation, the EBRD embodies in itself and in its governance the principles of multilateralism, acting as a true bridge between Europe and partner countries in Africa, and fostering cooperation built on shared ownership and mutual trust. We help bridge the gap between EU public institutions and economic operators by being close to the ground and understanding the realities of what it means to invest. So we welcome the European Commission initiatives of the Global Gateway Investment Hub. Together with other implementing partners, we have contributed to the designing process, committed to additionality, impact and streamlined processes. And we look forward to exploring the potential for cooperating with the African Union's Africa Virtual Investment Platform. In a world undergoing profound transformation, Africa and Europe can create an inclusive, sustainable and transformative growth. The EBRD will invest, partner and deliver on this shared vision. Together, we can turn ambition into action and opportunity into prosperity for all our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Basso. I'm going to call on Mr. Sidi Ota, President of the African Development Bank, on their views in terms of financing, as was mentioned by Her Excellency.
Excelências, ministros, distintos líderes do setor privado africano e europeu, senhoras e senhores, permitam-me, antes de tudo, expressar os meus sinceros agradecimentos e a minha profunda gratidão à Sua Excelência, o Presidente João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, Presidente da República da Angola e Presidente da União Africana. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est un honneur de prendre part à cet important forum au moment où le partenariat entre l'Afrique et l'Europe s'apprête à embrasser une ambition renouvelée. Ce forum d'affaires ne se limite pas à un simple cadre d'échange, il nous offre l'occasion d'avancer un agenda commun de croissance, de stabilité et d'opportunité fondé sur le respect mutuel et un objectif partagé. Dans un monde qui évolue à une vitesse remarquable, les choix que nous faisons ensemble influenceront non seulement l'avenir de nos deux continents, mais également la trajectoire de l'économie mondiale. L'Afrique est en passe de devenir le prochain moteur majeur d'investissement et de croissance au niveau mondial. Avec une économie évaluée à 3 300 milliards de dollars, appelée à doubler d'ici 2040, et la plus grande population en âge de travailler, une force de travail qui sera, à partir de 2035, supérieure à la Chine et à l'Inde combinées, le potentiel est immense. La transition énergétique ouvre des opportunités sans précédent. Plus de 2,8 milliards de dollars d'infrastructures vertes, des ressources renouvelables de classe mondiale et des minéraux critiques essentiels aux batteries, aux véhicules électriques et aux technologies industrielles avancées. Parallèlement, la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine, la ZLECAf, jette les bases d'un marché intégré majeur. L'Afrique est l'endroit où les rendements à long terme rencontrent une valeur stratégique globale. Mais l'existence d'opportunités ne suffit pas. Les entrepreneurs africains et européens nous le disent clairement. L'Afrique ne manque pas d'opportunités, mais de structures d'investissement bancaires. Il demande de la prévisibilité, une meilleure protection contre les risques d'échange et les risques politiques, une préparation plus rapide des projets, des garanties évolutives et des mécanismes de financement mixtes. Par-dessus tout, ils veulent des institutions de confiance capables de coordonner la chaîne d'investissement. En tant que président du groupe de la Banque africaine de développement, depuis le 1er septembre de cette année, c'est précisément là où je veux mener le groupe à travers les 4 points cardinaux. Le premier point cardinal a trait à la mobilisation massive de ressources financières pour financer le développement de l'Afrique. Le deuxième point cardinal est relatif à la réforme de l'architecture financière africaine pour plus de synergie et d'interaction entre les acteurs financiers africains, une plus grande mobilisation de l'épargne africaine. Troisième point cardinal est relatif à notre démographie. Nous devons utiliser notre démographie pour faire de l'Afrique la prochaine puissance économique mondiale. Le quatrième point cardinal est relatif à la construction d'infrastructures résilientes et la transformation sur le sol du continent africain de nos matières premières. Au centre de nos priorités figure la modification du profil de risque de l'investissement en Afrique, afin que les capitaux puissent circuler avec plus de confiance et de rapidité. Nous bâtirons pour cela le premier écosystème continental de garantie, conçu pour les chaînes de valeur et les programmes nationaux et non pour des projets isolés. Nous remplacerons avec Nous remplacerons l'actuel système d'instruments morcelés par un système cohérent qui crée de la prévisibilité, protège les investissements et accélère les investissements transformateurs. Une autre priorité est de constituer un pipeline à la hauteur des ambitions africaines. Les investisseurs veulent des projets bien préparés, bancables et de grande envergure. Nous œuvrerons pour réorienter nos opérations afin de soutenir le développement du pipeline de concept à la clôture dans les secteurs souverains et privés. Nous allons aussi renforcer notre écosystème de préparation de projets afin de garantir des études plus solides, un meilleur cadrage et des délais plus prévisibles. La nouvelle architecture financière africaine vise à doter l'Afrique des instruments financiers et de la coordination nécessaire afin de permettre de mutualiser la puissance financière africaine, coordonner le financement climatique et infrastructurel, réduire la prime de risque systémique du continent et déployer de manière stratégique les garanties et les capitaux hybrides et les titrisation. L'Europe est au cœur de cet effort. Les pays européens détiennent plus de la moitié des droits de vote non régionaux de la Banque africaine de développement. Ils constituent aussi l'ossature du Fonds africain de développement dont ils sont les principaux donateurs. La Commission européenne a déjà fourni plus d'1 milliard d'euros de subventions via notre accord cadre financier au bénéfice de 200 millions de personnes. Nous travaillons en étroite collaboration avec la Banque européenne de reconstruction et de développement, la présidente Odile vient de le dire, et nous travaillons aussi avec la Banque européenne d'investissement, et je suis sûr que mon ami Fayol en dira quelques mots tout à l'heure. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me speak plainly. Africa must industrialize. New regulatory frameworks, from the Critical Raw Materials Act to the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism and Global Gateway, will profoundly shape this partnership. They can accelerate shared industrialization. The opportunity is to turn them into catalysts for joint investment, deeper integration, and transformation. If you align our ambitions, Africa and Europe can build far more than trade flows, gigafactories, battery and electric vehicle ecosystem, agro-industrial platforms, and green hydrogen value chains, alongside strong digital integration and regional corridors that define future supply chains. This is a moment to embrace a new model, made in Africa with Europe. Now allow me to turn to a pillar that is absolutely central to Africa's investment future, the African Development Fund, and in particular, the success of its 17th replenishment. Without a strong replenishment, Africa will simply not have the concessional resources required to deploy the instruments that make private sector and private investment possible. The instruments that the risk, that stabilize, and that turn opportunity into bankable projects. Europe has historically been the backbone of the African Development Fund. Your leadership, your consistency, and your confidence in this institution have shaped the fund's impact for over half a century. And your leadership in ADF 17 will directly determine Africa's capacity to expand its pipeline, strengthen its guarantee mechanism, and deepen its private sector engagement. ADF 17 is therefore much more than a replenishment cycle. It is the fuel for the private sector transformation we are discussing in this forum, and the foundation upon which risk mitigation, infrastructure investment, and new industries will stand. Supporting ADF 17 means supporting a more competitive, more resilient, and more prosperous Africa. Senhoras, senhores, esta reunião representa uma oportunidade importante para reforçarmos a cooperação entre a África e a Europa, promovermos investimentos produtivos e criarmos novas oportunidades para os nossos povos. Acredito fermamente que o diálogo franco e o trabalho conjunto nos permitirão avançar com confiança rumo a um futuro de paz, progresso e prosperidade partilhada. Muito obrigado.
Wow. I've never been to a place where somebody speaks all languages to cater for everyone in one moment. But thank you very much, sir. I want to call upon Mr. Ambrose Fayoli, the Vice President of the European Investment Bank, to now deliver his remarks.
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, bonjour à tous. C'est un honneur pour moi d'être ici aujourd'hui et je remercie l'Union africaine et l'Union européenne pour avoir invité la Banque européenne d'investissement aux côtés de la BERD et de la Banque africaine de développement et aussi aux côtés de ce dynamique écosystème africain d'entreprises qui est si impressionnant. Le partenariat entre l'Afrique et l'Europe est central pour la mission de la BEI qui est active en Afrique depuis 1960. Dans la dernière décennie, nous avons investi 20 milliards d'euros et mobilisé plus de 50 milliards d'euros en Afrique, la moitié en faveur du secteur privé. Et en 2024, l'Afrique a été le récipient de 3 milliards d'euros de la part de la BEI, soit plus de 40% des engagements que nous avons pris en dehors d'Europe. Through EIB Global, we finance projects that deliver impact, sustainable growth, employment and better living conditions. Our new strategy strengthens partnerships, reflecting our belief and prosperity and security are shared goals for Europe and Africa. As Team Europe, we have exceeded the 300 billion euros of investment targets for Global Gateway strategy, and we are now committing to surpassing 400 billion by 27. The EIB is on track as part of Team Europe to mobilize 100 billion of this. To achieve this, we are scaling up our financing tools and accelerating collaboration. The key word here is together. Together with the European Commission, we are pledging to finance more than 2 billion euros investment in renewable energy in Africa in the next 2 years. Actually following what we have already done last year in Cabo Verde to expand wind power with a loan from 39 million euros. Together with the European Commission, the African Development Bank and KfW, we are running Boost Africa to help fast-growing, innovative companies to scale. Together with leading African financial institutions such as EcoBank or Morocco's Banque Centrale Populaire or Mauritania's Alas Mana, we support small businesses in Africa in particular to help financing SMEs that are led by women or young people. To cover the various segments of African markets, we are using our broad financing tools, which are from sovereign lending, corporate lending, SME support through financial intermediaries, to equity investments through funds combined with blending and technical assistance. On the continent, our focus is on enabling infrastructure. Health, water, energy, sustainable agriculture, transport, and digital inclusion, alongside support for the local private sector. An illustration is last week's signature in South Africa of a loan of 350 million euros with Transnet, the state-owned transport and logistic company. Supported by a grant from the European Union, this major investment will help South Africa move towards a low-carbon, climate-resilient and economy as part of the Just Energy Transition Partnership, the JETP. This investment, aligned with the EU Global Gateway Strategy, will finance the renewal and rehabilitation of transport ports and freight railway infrastructure. It will allow also to support the development of new assets critical to building a green hydrogen value chain and facilitate a shift to cleaner modes of transport. Eventually, it will actually help strengthen the country's competitiveness and contributing to job creation. And we are also engaged here in the region, in the Lobito Corridor, the key project for regional economic integration. Let me close by two messages. One, financing climate adaptation is a priority. EIB has pledged to double its adaptation financing to 30 billion euros by 2030. It focuses on water, cities, agriculture and vulnerable regions. Our projects range from forestry in Côte d'Ivoire to clean cooking solutions in East Africa, from sustainable cocoa to sustainable aviation fuels, on which we will have an announcement today. Second, investing in people is essential for sustainable growth. In Rwanda, we financed the African Center of Excellence for Digital Education. In Benin, we support the technical secondary schools. Here in Angola, we have invested 50 million euros in vaccination campaign for fighting against HPV. Clearly, Africa and Europe share a common destiny. By joining forces and investing in concrete, high-impact projects, we can build a future based on shared prosperity, stability, and sustainability, and we are very proud at EIB to be part of this momentum. Let me finish by saying that as this forum is an amazing opportunity for networking, I encourage all of you to meet our EIB team present at the Business Forum to explore new ways of cooperation. Thank you very much.